Hello students, today we will study first lesson of the book Footprints Without Feet, A Triumph of Surgery. This lesson is written by James Harriet. James Harriet was an English veterinary surgeon and writer. He was born on 3rd October 1916 in Sunderland, England. James Harriet was his pen name. Being a noted veterinary surgeon, he utilized his vast experience in writing stories about animals. He wrote a series of books of stories about animals and their masters. James Harriet died on 23rd February 1995 at the age of 78. Now, this story portrays a pet dog spoiled by its owner. The owner indulges her dog so much with food and other comforts that the dog has become overweight and cannot even walk properly. Finally, the dog is taken to a veterinary doctor who treats the dog without using a single medicine. He is left with all other dogs so that it can play and get the much needed physical exercise. After a period of enough physical activities, the dog loses much of its weight and becomes hale and hearty. Now, as I have told you, this story is about a dog. His name is Tricky, and he is pampered and overfed by his rich mistress, Mrs. Pamphret. So, now let's read the story. As the story starts, it is given, I was really worried about Tricky this time. I here refers to James Harriet. He is the writer, author of this story, and he is the doctor also. I had pulled up my car when I saw him in the street with his mistress, and I was shocked at his appearance. Actually, once doctor was driving his car and he suddenly met Mrs. Pamphret with the dog Tricky. And when he saw the dog, he stopped his car immediately and he was concerned to see the appearance of the dog. He had become hugely fat. He was very fatty, like a blotted sausage. Blotted is what? Blotted is swollen. And it is given sausage. Sausage is also a mixture of finely chopped and cooked meat. So he was just looking a swollen flesh and floated sauces with a leg at each corner. His eyes bloodshot. His eyes were having red lines and rheumy. They were wet, and he just looked straight ahead, and his tongue lolled from his jaws, and he just rolled his tongue in his jaws. Mrs. Pamphret hastened to explain. Now, Mrs. Pamphret, she was the mistress of that dog, and she just wanted to explain the things. What she said, he was so listless, he was lifeless, Mr. Harriet. He seemed to have no energy, and she just tried to explain all that condition. She said that dog has no energy. I thought he must be suffering from malnutrition, so I have been giving him some extras, little extras between meals to build him up, some malt and cold liver oil and a bowl of Horlicks at night to make him sleep. Nothing much really. Now what she said, what she thought that he was suffering from malnutrition, so she had been giving him some extra malt. Malt is, it's just the it's a kind of food, like in it's gram or barley, which is in Hindi it is called जौ, जैसे जौ बोलते हैं. And gave him cold liver oil. Cold liver is a fish oil, and a bowl of Horlicks, so to make him sleep. Nothing much really. And what she called that food, that was really nothing. And did you cut down on the sweet things as I told you? Now doctor already knew the situation of the dog, and what the doctor had already suggested, that she should cut down the sweet things. Oh, I did for a little bit. Now what she said, that she had done it, but he seemed to be so weak, I had to relent. I had to be softened. He seemed to be very weak. And he does love cream cakes and chocolates. Now what she said, that dog loves cream cakes and chocolate, so she cannot bear to refuse him. Actually, this was the only problem, that she knew the condition of the dog, but in spite of all that, she over pampered the dog. and she gave him extra food that made him so fatty and inactive. I looked down again at the little dog. That was the trouble. That was the only trouble. And Tricky's only fault was greed. And Tricky's fault was that he was very greedy. He never refused food, and he would tackle a meal at any hour of the day or night. And he would take food any time of the day. Whenever he was given food, he never refused. And I wondered about all the things Mrs. Pumphrey had not mentioned, and he was just thinking that Mrs. Pumphrey had just told a few things, but many things she has just not mentioned, and she must be giving him much extra food. Then he again asked, "Are you giving him plenty of exercise? Are you giving him are you taking him for some kind of exercises?" "Well, he has his little walks with me, as you can see. Now she just take him for a little walk, but Hodgkin the gardener has been down with lumbago." Now what she told, that Hodgkin the gardener has been suffering from back pain. Lumbago is back pain, so there has been no ring throwing lately. There are no such activities. Only she was taking him for a little walk, and doctor was really worried about his condition. Then I tried to sound severe. Now he severely asked her, "Now I really mean this. If you don't cut this food right down and give him more exercise, he is going to be really ill." Now he severely advised her, "Ma'am, ki if you don't cut his food and take him for exercises, he is going to be ill. You must harden your heart and keep him on a strict diet." Now you must not be softened, and you must not give him extra food, and you must follow a strict diet plan for that dog, otherwise he would be suffering much. Mrs. Pumphrey wrung her hands. "Oh, I will." Now she just promised the doctor that, "Oh, I will definitely do, and I'm sure you are right, but it is so difficult, so very difficult." But she said, "It is really difficult to refuse him for food, and whenever he wanted food, I just give him." And she set off, heading down along the road as if determined to put the new regime into practice immediately. And what she it looked as if she had resoluted that she would give him a new routine. She would practice a new routine immediately, and she would make a strict diet plan. She would give him plenty of exercises. That seemed to be working. Now, next it is given, "I watched their progress with growing concern." He was really worried about that dog. Tricky was tottering along in his little tweed coat. Many times he met and he was in the same condition. He was just tottering along is staggering. लड़खड़ाता हुआ सा वो घूमता था. In his tweed coat, he had a whole wardrobe of these coats. There were so many fur coats with him for the cold weather, and a raincoat even for wet seasons. He struggled on, drooping in his harness. He was struggling very hard, hanging in his. He was just hanging in the leather strap and not active at all. I thought it would not be long before I heard from Mrs. Pumphrey, and he thought that definitely he would get a call from Mrs. Pumphrey, and that was not long when he got a call from Mrs. Pumphrey. The expected call came within a few days. Mrs. Pumphrey was distraught. She was really very upset. Tricky would not eat nothing. Now what she said, that Tricky was not taking anything, refused even his favorite dishes. He was not taking his favorite dishes even, and besides he has bouts of vomiting. He was vomiting, fits, bouts, these are fits of vomiting were there. And he spent all his time lying on a rug panting, and he keeps on breathing heavily lying on the mat. Didn't want to go for walks, didn't want to do anything, and he did not even want to go for walk and do anything. So I had made my plans in advance. Now doctor knew all that, and he had already planned the things in advance. The only way was to get Chicky out of the house for a period, and the only solution was to take him out from that house for some time. I suggested that he be hospitalized for about a fortnight to be kept under observation. And he suggested that he should be hospitalized for about 15 days to be kept under observation. So now the poor lady almost swooned. She almost fainted. She was sure he would pine and die if he did not see her every day. and she was sure he would pine and die. He would be in very, he will be painful, and it would be very painful, and he would die if he did not see her mistress every day. But I took a firm line. I took a firm decision. Doctor took a firm decision. Tricky was very ill, and this was the only way to save him. And he just wanted to save that dog, and this was the only solution. He had to take him out from that house. I thought it best to take him without delay, and he decided to take him without any delay, and followed by Mrs. Pumphrey's wailing, and Mrs. Pumphrey was crying very much. I marched out to the car carrying the little dog wrapped in a blanket, and he took that dog and he just came near to his car wrapped in a blanket. The entire staff was roused. He was woke up, and maids rushed in and out, bringing his day bed, his night bed, favorite cushions, toys, and rubber rings, breakfast bowl, lunch bowl, supper bowl, and they collected so many things for the dog, because actually he was so over pampered. The dog was so over pampered. He was having his night beds, day beds, cushions, toys, rubber rings, breakfast bowl, lunch bowl, a different one, and even the dinner bowl. So all the things they put in the car. But realizing that my car would not never hold all the stuff, that he realized that his car would not be able to hold all the things, so he started to drive away. As I moved off, Mrs. Pumphrey, with a despairing cry, threw an armful of little coats through the window. And even then, Mrs. Pumphrey, with a very crying, disappointing cry, put some little coats through the window of the car. I looked in the mirror before I turned the corner of the drive. Everybody was in tears, and what he could see when he looked back, that everybody was weeping. Out on the road, I glanced down at the pathetic little animal gasping on the seat by my side. And out on the road, he just looked at the dog, very miserable little animal, little dog. He was just breathing very heavily by his side. I patted the head, and Tricky made a brave effort to wag his tail. So he just tried to move his tail. Poor old lad, I said, you haven't a kick in you, but I think I know a cure for you. I know that you have no energy, but I know that how I have to cure you. So this is the story part. Now there are some oral questions given. Is the narrator as rich as Tricky's mistress? Maybe he is a doctor. He is not as rich as Tricky's mistress, Mrs. Pumphrey. How long does he treat the dog? For 15 days. Why is he tempted to keep Tricky on a permanent guest? And why does Mrs. Pumphrey think the dog's recovery is a triumph of surgery? These two questions will be this one you can assume only, but this is all given in the rest part of the story. And this rest part of the story we will do in the next video. So with that, thank you.